I changed the game plan, didn't tell anyone. I pulled the shank out of the front of my pants and stuck it in his neck. Stuck on something and I couldn't get it out to stab him again. Welcome to our podcast. This is episode number
5.
I'm Boss, and my good friend Paula Parrish is here with me to keep me in straight and keep me in line. So we're going to talk about SHU. That's the acronym for it. It's Special Housing Unit, right? So we're going to talk about the box. And it comes from the old days when there was a hole in the ground and, if you were acting up in prison, they would throw you in this hole in the ground, throw the cover on it, and you were boxed. But in reality, you can go to the box for anything. You can go in the box for spitting on the sidewalk. You can go to the box for anything. That's the truth.
Can we start by a question?
Sure.
Well, first of all, if you could add up all of the time that you did in the box, what do you think it would total?
I actually did that one time, and I got almost 7 years total box time.
Wow, so what's the longest amount at one time?
The longest amount I did at one time was 2 years, a little over 2 years.
Straight?
2
years straight?
Yeah, I did 26 months for stabbing a CO.
What?
Yeah, so I did, yeah.
First of all, you stabbed somebody?
A corrections officer, so it doesn't count. It's a cop. So yes.
God damn, there's so much I don't know.
Yeah, there's a lot that everyone doesn't know, right? And there's a lot that, unfortunately, is hidden, and that's the point of this podcast, right? To unhide this stuff.
To say that people come out more damaged than when they went in it's no exaggeration, because to take you, for example, someone who basically hadn't had a fist fight since the 8th grade when you were arrested, you got only 2 years for stabbing someone?
Initially, I got 5. I was actually given 5 years at a Tier 3 hearing by a lieutenant. That's a story we can tell. If you want to tell it now, I'll tell it. It has to do with the CO attacking me, sexual harassment. I was a kid. And it has to do with the fucking CO being a pedophile.
Oh my God.
So, and it's why I got out in 2.5, a little over 2, not even 2.5 versus 5. Because the CO was a pedophile and he had it coming. But I mean, that's a story we can tell or not,
I'm sorry.
I'm not going to hide it, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I said that before. I'm not going to fudge. As these things come up, we can discuss them. I'm not going to hide. I want people to know what the fuck goes on in there.
Well, how about you just tell a brief version of it?
Well, briefly, all right, so in brief, every time I would come out of my cell, this CO would throw me against the wall and he would squeeze my ass and grope my nuts and rub me in funny ways and whisper in my ear and say weird shit to me about, why don't you come with me? I can't wait to get you. Why don't you let me move you to my company? And that kind of stuff. He was trying to fuck me, you know what I mean? So I went to a couple of my friends. I went to Tom the Bomb and I said, this is going on, man, blah, blah, blah. What do I do? He went to the other guys on the company and said, listen, when we come out for chow tonight, when this guy pulls Boss out of the line and puts him on the wall, Boss is going to light his ass up. Everybody be ready. Keep the cops off him. He's going to whoop this guy's ass. So that's what I was going to do. I was going to put hands on this CO this time tonight, and the rest of the guys were going to keep the other COs out of the fight, so he got a good ass whooping. I changed the game plan, didn't tell anyone. I decided to stab him instead. So when he put me on the wall and he did that to me again, he groped me like he always did and went to whisper in my ear. I pulled the shank out of the front of my pants and stuck it in his neck. So between his neck and his shoulder blade, and I stabbed him there. It stuck on something and I couldn't get it out to stab him again. He fell on the floor crying and screaming like a little girl, and then all the other guys, of course, that were with me were all dumbfounded. They're like, what the fuck, Tom? Tom the Bomb's like, what the fuck did you do, man? You were supposed to beat him up, not fucking stab him. So it started like a mini riot right there between us and the cops, So we were all in the box for that. But they got out. Once I explained, what happened and whose fault it was and all that, they all got out of the box. And I got 5 years for assault on staff.
They ended up believing you that that he was a predator?
They knew it, but they had to they had to protect the blue line, right? There are no good cops. All the cops knew he was a pedophile and a predator. I wasn't the only person he'd done this to. Who knows how many guys he'd fucked before, right? Through me being in the box and guys stopping by, hey, what the fuck happened? Hey, what happened? And I told them, what happened. And they're like, yeah, that motherfucker. So, they started speaking up for me. And then a little over 2 years into it, one of the captains came by and said, hey, write to me and ask me for a time cut as he's walking past. So that night I got paper and pencil and I wrote to him and asked for a time cut. 2 days later I was out. So they spoke up for me. The other cops spoke up for me.
Was that your first time in the box?
No.
How many other times had you been in the box?
I don't know at that point. I mean, my first time in the box was for making wine. I got caught with 5 gallons of wine. So.
How much time did you get for that?
30 days.
So what was it like the very first time you went into that box?
Well, the first time it's brutal. I was scared, I mean, you don't know what to expect. You hear all these stories, right? You don't know till you get there, right? Because, I mean, usually you go to the box, you get an ass whooping. That's the first thing you get.
Where, by the guards?
Yeah, the cops beat you up. They kick your ass on the elevator.
While you're going to the box?
Right, or they'll kick your ass in a strip cell. Ugh. So it's one or the other. You're going to get your ass kicked no matter what. They're going to beat you up. They're going to hit you with sticks. They're going to jump up and down on you. They're going to whoop your ass, and then they're going to throw you in a fucking cage. So,
now? Still? Today?
Yeah. And as an example, Auburn Correctional Facility is the only maximum security facility left in the state that does not have cameras in the box. Every other maximum security facility has cameras in the box because...
Because of that?
Because of that. You go to the box in Auburn, you get an ass whooping. You go to the box in Clinton and they want to kick your ass, they transfer you to Auburn.
We were not going to be depressing tonight.
Well, you ask it, right?
So someone attacks you.
Right.
A CO comes out, puts you both in the box no matter what.
No,
that doesn't happen? Okay.
No. So you could have a fist fight in the yard, right? Let's say you got a fist fight in the yard and you're fighting and there's no weapon involved. And the COs come out and say, hey, break it up, and you stop fighting, right? All right, you're both going to your cells, and you're going to keep locked in your cells, right? You're not going to the box for a fight. You're going to the box for drugs, you're going to the box for weapons, you're going to the box for assault on staff, you're going to the box for reckless eyeballing, you're going to the box for those things.
Reckless eyeballing? What the fuck is that?
P.
Shoot. What is that, like throwing gang symbol or throwing like...
No, it's for staring at the chicks, man. For staring at the civilians or the COs. So if some civilian chick comes in a tight ass pair of pants and a nice top and
like they always do,
like
by the way.
Always do.
God, why do they do that?
And if you're staring at her and she's uncomfortable, and she tells the CO, hey, that guy keeps staring at me.
Yeah.
You're getting a reckless eyeballing ticket. That's a tier 3.
Reckless eyeballing. I've never fucking
That's
heard
a charge.
of that.
It's in the book, man.
Wow.
It's in the rule book. Reckless eyeballing.
How do you meet people? I've heard you say and other people say that they've become friends with somebody from meeting them in solitary. How do you know who's next to you?
Well, if you're in solitary, how are you meeting people in solitary? The word itself defies that, right? Solitary.
Okay.
So if you're in solitary confinement, the only one you see is a CO. No one else has contact with you.
Oh, so if you're in solitary,
which is different than the box.
You can't get drugs in solitary, like you were saying.
Yeah, if you're in solitary, you're pretty much cut off from everything. You're not going to get reading material. You're not going to get a shower. You're going to be lucky if you get fed. You're probably on the loaf.
That's where you went?
I went there for the assault on staff. I didn't go there for the wine. I was on the loaf for a while for assault on the staff because the CO lied, said I threw something at him.
What is a loaf? What do you mean?
Oh, I'm sorry. So the loaf is a piece of bread that they make.
Shut up.
Yeah, and the cook makes this special. It's totally flavorless, but it has every nutrient in it that you need to live. And that's all you get to eat, that and water. So it's bread and water. It's called the loaf. It has carrots in it or whatever. Nutrients you need to live, and that's what you get.
That is not a joke, the bread and water thing?
That is the truth. It's called the loaf.
Oh my God. I
Yeah,
always assumed that was just such a terrible joke.
It's not a joke. It's the truth. Solitary confinement, or if you're behind the glass, you're on the loaf.
What do you mean behind the glass?
Okay, let's say you're mentally ill, And a lot of mentally ill people throw feces, urine, rub feces on the wall. So let's say you're mentally ill and you throw feces at as a corrections officer, right? They're going to put plexiglass across the front of a cell, and they're going to put you in that cell. Say goodbye to your ventilation. So whatever you throw stays in that cell with you. So if you're throwing feces and rubbing it on the wall and all that, you're living in it. On the loaf, living in it. If the SEAL wants to just give you a hard time, he'll say you threw something at him. Did you throw that at me? You're like, what the fuck are you talking about? All right. He'll go write a ticket on you for throwing something at you. He'll call his sergeant, his supervisor. 4-cell just threw something at me. Okay. They'll come up with the goon squad. They'll glass a cell. They usually have one already glassed. They'll pull you out of 4-cell, put you in that glass cell, and that's where you're at. You'll be on the loaf. You'll see the nurse every other day. Law says the nurse has to check you every 48 hours.
So, okay, so you were in there for 2 years straight. You were in a cell, not with the plexi, but just regular solitary confinement for 2 years
26
straight.
months.
And is
But I was not on the loaf all that time. They can't keep you on the loaf longer than, I think it's 14 days, and they have to start feeding you. I think they have to feed you for a week. Then they can put you back on the loaf for 14 days, but then they have to start feeding you. So you're not on the loaf continuously, but I mean, come on. 2 weeks on the loaf, you may as well be. I guess all you have to look at is the suicide rate in the SHUs to know what that's about, right?
What did you do to remain sane, and how did you occupy your time?
I would read books, get books and read them.
So you were able to get books?
Yeah, you're always able to get, but there's always some CO who's going to throw a book at you if you become a big enough pain in the ass. So what I would do is I would just bang on the wall all fucking day. I just bang on the wall. So comes by and goes, what the fuck is your problem? Bored, give me something to read. You want me to stop? Give me something to read. Next time your slot opens, they'll throw a couple books in there. They also have a library cart that actually comes by if you're in the regular box.
26. Did you write letters to people?
Yeah, I mean, sometimes. Mostly no. I was a reader. I do push-ups. I would do isometrics. I would draw pictures of technical things that I knew. Like I would draw jet engines, schematics of rocket engines. I would draw schematics of Chevy big blocks and how I would change them. And
how many times were you actually in solitary? Just that once?
Well, I mean, I was in administrative segregation a number of times. And segregation is the same as solitary because when they segregate me, they don't put anyone around me, usually. Now, they can only administratively segregate you for 120 days without a court order. Now, administrative segregation is different from box segregation. If you're administratively segregated, you're not charged with a crime. You're administratively segregated because whatever you know or whatever you're doing, they're afraid of. So to control you, they will segregate you from your posse, your power base. They're either going to hold you for 120 days until they kill whatever you started and put you back in population. Or they're going to hold you for that close to 120 days and put you on a transfer to a new facility with a note in your folder that you're in trouble. Protective custody means you're in custody for protection. Right? Mm-hmm. Okay, you get all your privileges. All your privileges are there in protective custody. You get everything. You've got everything you need in PC. Normally, when you're in PC, they'll hold you there till they find you a new facility where you can go and they just ship you out. Someplace where you'll be safe.
You think some people do things on purpose?
Oh, I used to do it myself.
Yeah.
Yeah, you go to the box on purpose.
Reckless behavior just to get, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes like me and Bruno Batts, we used to stage fights. You know, everybody thought we were enemies. We were best fucking friends. We would stage fights to go to the box. When the cops told us to break up, we'd start fighting the cops. So it's guaranteed box. You're going to the box.
Is it like you said with DeFeo, like to go and do a bunch of dope? Or did you...
It's not only dope to do, right? Which you're going to do, which we always did. But it's vacation, Pete.
That's what I was wondering, if you just got a rest from everything.
It's a rest. Because guess what? Your fucking door ain't open. What does that mean? That means nobody can get to you. Go read a book, man. You can be you now. You can take that fucking suit off and relax for 30 days or 90 days.
And you would just stop short of doing something really terrible so you wouldn't go to solitary?
Yeah, you'd have to stop. You couldn't cross a line, right?
There's an art to that, I
Yeah,
suppose.
and if you cross a line, you're going to get an ass whooping too. So there's a line you don't want to cross,
I want to play a clip from Amir. Can I?
Sure.
This is Amir. I want to tell that story because when I had first written to you, I reached out to my friend who had also he'd been in for, also 38 years at the time. So I just thought I'd take a shot at it, even though it sounds ridiculous. Do you know this person? Because there's so many prisoners in New York, and you guys had been in the box together.
Yeah, I think we did, 6-7 months together.
At risk of going on a giant tangent here, I'm going to play a recording he called in from Franklin Correctional to explain why he wound up in a box one time.
Okay. Let's hear it.
What was the actual attack? You were coming back into the prison and you were handcuffed or something, or what?
No, what happened was I just got there on a transfer. So they came to my cell, pretending like everything was all right, and they said, look, you got to see the sergeant. What they have there is a quarantine review. When you first get to the prison, you have to get interviewed by a sergeant. Do you have enemies here? Do you have any, anything you want to question about? And the sergeant talks to you, and then once he releases you, you can go out to population, go to chow, take a shower, make a phone call. They ask you, do you think you need PC? Do you have any enemies here that you know about? That type of stuff. So the CO come to me and told me I was going for my quarantine review. He said, but they have a new policy because you're in the room by yourself with the sergeant. A lot of guys go into the room with the sergeant. They're there by themselves with the sergeant, and they end up assaulting the sergeant. So in order to put protection on the sergeant, from now they search you, cuff you behind your back, put your ID card in your top pocket of your green shirt. He says, when you go into office, you remain standing until the sergeant tells you to be seated. He asks you if you have an ID card. You tell him it's in your pocket. He'll reach and grab it, take your ID out. He'll do the interview. When the interview's over, he'll put the ID card back in your pocket, and then he'll tell you to stand, and then you don't leave the room until he tells you to leave the room. He says, then you come back out here in the hallway, and we'll take their cuffs off, and then you're free to go about your business. He says, then you can make your arrival phone call to your family, as soon as that's done. He says, is that good? I said, yeah, okay, no problem. He said, okay, no problem. He says, okay, get up against the wall. He searched me. He cuffed me behind my back, and he said, and he stepped off the gallery, and he was playing with these keys. He had 6 lockbox, big brass keys that on a dog chain, like a keychain, but it had like a long dog chain. Like the choke chain they put on dogs. Mm-hmm. That's what the keys were attached to. So he's spinning it around and catching it in his hand. Then he would spin it around the other way, catch it in his hand. As he was talking to me, he was doing that. So he caught the keys, and then he turned around and pointed to the wall outside the hallway and says, your bunkies in there with him right now. He says, in the meantime, wait over there across the hall. I took 3 steps past him. When I took the 3rd step past him, he punched me in the back of the head with the lockbox keys, and the teeth cut the whole top of my head open. And I didn't know that on the side of the wall, on the blind side where I couldn't see around the corner, there was 6 other COs there, standing there waiting for me to come off the gallery, and then there was one on the other side of the hallway that was up on, in Attica they got a lot of cats. They pretty much their facility pets. They feed them all, when they do the feed up in the blocks, the keep lock trays, all the extra milk and all the extra food, they throw it out the window to these cats. There's like 40 of them. They're feral cats. So the CO was out there playing with the cats, leaning out the window, pretending he was playing with the cats. When he punched me in the back of the head, they grabbed me by the handcuffs, lifted the cuffs up between my shoulder blades, kicked my feet out from under me, and tried to knock my teeth out on the brass rail that was going across the wall right there in the hallway. But I turned my head, and that's how I hit my shoulder instead, and my shoulder popped out. Because I knew they were notorious. They like to knock guys' teeth out. So I turned my head, and then caught my shoulder instead, but the bone popped out of my shoulder. And then they kicked my feet out from under me, slammed me on the ground, and started kicking, stomping, and punching me. And then the Yakrin put his knee in my back between my shoulder blades, but a little higher, like up on my neck to hold me down, and was trying to punch me in my face, and I kept turning my head from side to side to avoid it. The other guy that was on the desk ran across the desk and literally jumped in the air and landed on my lower back and stomped me. And then he grabbed my right leg and lifted it halfway up and went to snap it sideways. He was trying to break my leg. All right? But every time he did it, I would just lift my body up. That's why the guy had his knee in my back. He was trying to hold me flat so the guy could snap my leg sideways. But they ended up stomping the crap out of me. So, when it's all said and done.
What was going through your head?
I was in shock. To be honest with you, I was in shock. I didn't feel no pain or nothing, especially like when they broke the bone. I didn't feel no pain. It was more shock. Like, why is this happening to me? What the hell's going on? I didn't do nothing wrong. I thought I was actually going to see the sergeant, and then he was going to let me go make a phone call. And listen, I was seeing stars. They were punching me in my head so hard that all I seen was bright spots. I didn't yell. I didn't moan. I didn't cry out. Nothing. It just happened that quick. I was such shock. And they took that to think I was like, oh shit, we beat the shit out of this guy. He didn't make a sound, And then they looked at me like they were leery, like, holy shit, we fucking stomped the shit out of this guy. He didn't so much as moan or complain or nothing. He took the ass whooping. But what they didn't realize is it was shock. It wasn't because I was a tough guy. It was so fast, so brutal, so vicious that I was like you could say like in awe. I was in shock. Like, oh, what the? And then it happened, and it was over with. And then when the lieutenant came and seen my bone sticking up, I had my green state shirt on, so the bone was pushing the shoulder of the shirt up. He thought I had a weapon or something. He said, what is that? He's got a weapon under his shirt? And he pulled my collar aside when the bone popped out from underneath his shirt. So, dear mother of God, does that hurt? And I just turned around and looked at him. I was in a daze. I just looked at him. And he took 2 steps back and said, get him the fuck out of here. I guess I shook him the way I was looking at him. I didn't respond to it. Then they dragged me out to the hallway, drug me to the box, and just threw me in the cell and lied and said that I seen the nurse that there was no injuries whatsoever. I was in shock until maybe an hour after they put me in that cell, in the box. And then I passed out. I woke up about 12 hours later to everybody on the gallery banging on the cell walls, yelling, OT, OT, you all right? You're OT, you all right? Finally, like 12, they put me in the box in the morning, like 8 in the morning, and I got up at maybe 11:30, 12 o'clock at night. It was still banging, trying to get my attention. Then when I woke up and I spoke to the guy next to me, it turns out one of the guys had seen him dragging me and putting the cell through me and was telling guys, yo, man, that's a good dude, man, it's an old timer, blah, blah, blah. They thought I was dead. They just kept banging. They were going to riot, protest, because they thought they killed the guy and threw him in a cell, so they were going to make a big stink out of it. But the officer in the box was a decent guy. He was talking shit to me at first. He said, like, oh, well, you're a tough guy. You want to start shitting here? What's going on? I was like, no. I told him, I said, look, this is what happened, man. He said, well, I'm off for the next 2 days. I'll be back 3 days from now. He says, if you're telling the truth, I'll find out. And if you're lying, I'm going to find out. So they left me in the plexiglass cell, and then 2 days went by. He came back on, and he told me, he said, look, man, you told the truth. It was mistaken identity. But even after they did what they did, they acknowledged that they were wrong. After they found out there was the wrong person, I was in the cell for 3 days until Hilly came up and made a stink. They took me down to the SHU visiting room. Hilly seen me. He went crazy. He couldn't believe that the bone was, the way the bone was sticking out and everything. He brought some, there was a female paralegal that came with him. I don't know if it was a paralegal. I think it was, some paralegal or something. She came with him. She started crying when she seen the condition I was in. My scalp was bending straight up. My shoulder was busted open, and they wanted to get a camera to take pictures. They provided them with a state camera to take pictures of me. And then after Hilly left, they literally carried me, put me in a van, and took me to ECMC in Buffalo, and they gave me medical attention. And then when I came back, they while I was in the box, they left me alone because the box officer was one of them guys that don't play games. He was like, look, man, you told the truth. You didn't do nothing wrong. As long as you're up here, you're going to be all right. He says, you smoke? And I was like, yeah. He said, okay. He went to one of his porters and said, yo, get it back to Marlboro's. Give it to the old timer here. And listen, if he needs anything, stop by his cell every once in a while. If he needs anything, you let him know. He'll let you know. And then he said, don't worry about it. I'll take care of you. Make sure he's all right. He said, yo, this guy's here for no reason. He said, I can't speak as to what's going to happen once you leave here. But while you're here, you're going to be all right. If you need anything, you let Johnny, the porter, know, and he'll come up front and personally let me know. You drink coffee? I was like, yeah. He said, okay, Johnny, when you get the cigarettes, swing around by my office and grab a cup of coffee. How do you like your coffee? I said, light and sweet. He said, all right. Grab a cup of coffee, make him a cup of coffee, and bring it down over the cigarettes. He said, look, I know you can't walk and your shoulder's messed up. He says, I know you can't go to regular recreation with the box guys, so what I'll do is whenever you want to get some fresh air, their yard, their recreation yard is on the roof of the building. You know what I'm saying? So he says, whenever you want to get some fresh air, get some sunlight, he says, you let Johnny know. I'll come back here, crack your cell. The door is right there next to your cell, and I'll put you out there, and you can sit on the stoop out there. There's like a little rock stoop. You can sit out there to get some fresh air. He says, anytime, day or night, if I'm here, if you need some fresh air, he says, let Johnny know. And he did. He let me out there, and months later, they finally took me out, did the operation. And then they shipped me out of Attica.
I'm sorry. This is like, I mean, the whole thing is fucked up from the beginning, but this is...
They had given me 6 months in the box, and then on the appeal, they expunged it off my record, but they still didn't let me out of the box for almost 2 months until somebody complained to Albany. Albany called the facility and told them, get him out of the box right now. And then they got me out of that box and moved me right back to the block that the same officers that jumped me worked in. And it was months before they finally did the operation. The whole time, they just ace bandaged the bone to my shoulder, and then put my arm across my chest and strapped my arm to my chest so I couldn't move my right arm. And eventually down the line, they did the operation, and then they got me out of Attica quick.
Okay, so Amir gets the shit totally kicked out of him, and then he's thrown in the box.
That's corrections, right? I mean, that was a brutal, horrible story, and it's a fucking shame that happened to him. But you know, anytime you have confrontation where the cops come in and kick the shit out of you, you're the guy that gets the charge. You get the assault on staff ticket, you know, because staff can't just beat you up for any reason. You had to do something to have it, you know, justified, right? They had to use deadly force, or you know, they had to do it for a reason. So you always get the ticket that says you're the reason.
All right, let's do a status update.
It's not. So, status update. I guess I have to say it was maybe one of the worst weeks of my life. Yeah, it was terrible.
How about we just play a phone call that we had the other day?
So I kind of got a quiet place right here, so I'm gonna stop. Okay.
All right.
So, how are you?
I'm okay.
All right. My first clue that I was gonna have a bad day is that I woke up and my blood was all over my pillow. So I knew that my heart was racing all night and I bleed from the nose when that happens. So I knew that it was gonna be a bad day.
You had blood on your pillow?
Yeah. That's been happening since I got out. That's been happening. It doesn't happen every night. It happens too frequently. It happens frequently enough that I went and bought dark-colored towels and wrapped my pillows in them so that I don't ruin the hotel pillows, you know? And it's anxiety. My heart rate's up and the adrenaline's up. So I woke up this morning like that, and I knew that it was going to be a bad day, but I could not force myself to get dressed. It took me forever to force myself to get dressed and say, listen, I wasn't going to work today. I was not coming out of my room. You know, that's how bad I was. I was shaking. I was just afraid. I was scared of everything for no reason. Just scared. I stared at the door for probably 15 minutes before I could make myself go out. And then I went back in it twice, came back out. I just couldn't function, G. I just couldn't do it. Couldn't do it.
God, I'm so sorry.
Yeah, and I guess it's PTSD. I think it is. I think it's everything laying on me. Everything is just too much again, you know. And it's funny that it runs in cycles. It seems to run in cycles, you know. So, but I was able to get dressed and I was able to force myself out of the room, but it was not I just felt like I was going to explode. I just wanted to find a corner someplace and just crawl in. Just crawl in the corner and just stay there. I mean, I was shaking. I'm still shaking a little bit now. I'm not normal. I don't feel good. So mean, it's been adrenaline burst all day, so I don't feel good. I'm so tired. This thing has got me baffled. I feel like they just dropped me in the middle of Queens and said, here, survive, and they just kind of chuckle at each other and say, let's see how long he lasts. That's what it feels like to me, you know?
So you just put one foot in front of the other and finally got yourself to work?
Yeah, I finally got up the courage to come out of my shell enough to push the elevator button and get in it. I mean, once I got in the elevator and got downstairs where I had to sign out, I mean, the lady there that signs me out says, are you okay? And I'm like, yeah, I'm fine. I'm good. She goes, you're shaking. I go, yeah, it's a little chilly, you know. I was afraid. I was scared to go outside. I was scared. And I don't know why. Nothing. I want to just crawl up in a... Sorry. Got kind of fucked up, you know?
Yeah.
I want to go any place. So fucking lonely all the time, you know? I'm in a room full of people. I'm fucking lonely. I don't know anybody. Can't talk to people. I don't know. I'm all fucked up, man. All fucked up. I don't know. I don't know what to do. I don't know how to fix it. I don't know how to fix it. And that's the hardest thing is I don't know how to fix it. And I know I'm not the only one that's going through this when we get out. I mean, there should be this is stupid. I mean, we've had prisons since the beginning of this fucking country, but we don't know how to fix people coming out of them? Fuck, man, I'm fucked up today, I'll tell you that. Jesus. It's been a hard day, man. It's been a hard day. This will pass. I don't know.
I never asked you this before, but do you ever feel guilt for leaving the other ones behind? You know, like your friends and family who are still on the inside?
Yes. Yeah. But then, I try to rationalize that too. I'm like, you know what? When my friends that are out here got out, they pretty much did the same thing to me for the first couple of years because I understand now. You got to get your shit together when you come out here. You know, there's no room. I can't do anything for my friends on the inside right now except make it known how bad it is on the inside. I think that's my only thing I can do for them.
Thanks for listening.
Yes, thank you for tuning in again to our podcast. If there's anything you'd like us to talk about, if you have suggestions, maybe you've heard things about the inside, maybe you have a friend who said something about the inside that you'd like us to talk about, or any of those things, just go to Facebook and send us a message. Talk to us. See what we can do.
And if you like what we're doing, please subscribe and download and like and all of that stuff, because if you do that, then we can keep doing it, and we want to keep doing it because unfortunately for Boss, he's got 41 years of stories to tell, but fortunately for us, he's willing to share them. So
I enjoy it. I wanted this voice for many, many years. I wanted to be able to share my life with you guys, and thanks for listening. And remember, don't do the crime.
If you can't, do the time. And?
Because you definitely cannot do the time.
Says Boss.
Says Boss. This is a safe zone for me. You could sneak up behind me and goose me in your home, and I wouldn't have that
Goose.
reaction.
I haven't heard that word in about 50 years. Not like that. I'm that old. Goose. That's so funny. I like that word.
Okay, so you could walk up to me in your home and startle me. All right, is that word better? Startle for your generation. So you could startle me, and I wouldn't react like that.
Look, a goose is an ass grab. Yeah.
If you say so, okay. Well,
I think a goose is an ass grab. Okay. But
okay, so if you sneak up on me and grab my ass, there's going to be problems. So don't.
Yeah. Right?
Yeah.
And especially if one of my friends did that to you. Although one of my friends almost did that to you.
I know. That freaked me out. That was so fucking bizarre. But anyway,
let's not tell that story.
Yeah, let's not tell that story because we don't know who's
She was
listening.
drunk, and yeah, we don't want to. She's gonna know who we're talking about.
Well, she's not gonna know. Yeah, I mean,